Hello, my name is Rich Gibson. I have many times made different videos chronicling my journey through sobriety and some of the things that helped me get to where I am now. And I'm in a much better place than I was, but there's always been this part of me that wanted to go further and be better. I just never knew how. For those of you who may not have seen any of my other videos I posted, at age 7, I lost my father to a car accident. And back in those days, the late 60s or early 70s, families just kind of, at least mine did, just kind of accepted death and you were expected to go on. Well, at my age, we had moved a few times, and my father was really my best friend. A very doting father. We did a lot of fishing together. We did a lot of things together. When he'd go to work on his off day on the weekends, he would bring me with him. And things like that. Growing up for me was very difficult. When my father passed, we were renting a duplex in Fenton, and the house we owned in Garden City, we were renting out to another couple. My mother asked us kids where we wanted to live. Well, family was in Garden City, so that's the choice we made. Well, when we moved back, the people that were renting refused to move out or made it very difficult. Family friend of ours who lived across the street from the home that we owned was very understanding, and her and her family allowed me, my mother, and my sister to live with them for a period of time until the people that were in the house moved out. This was a difficult time for me because some of the kids of the family that was in there also went to our school, and they made my life very difficult. A lot of bullying, a lot of teasing, a lot of unnecessary dislike. I will call it hate because they're kids. And it made my life at that time very difficult in going through the process of grief, which I wasn't getting any help for, made everything that much harder, much more stressful. As I got into my early to mid-teens, my mom was seeing a friend of the family who happened to be an alcoholic. There was alcohol all around, and that's when my descent into drinking started. It started out very small, but because it was accepted, I didn't think that there was anything at all wrong with it. By the age of 19, my drinking had become a problem. I was what a professional might call a binge drinker. I didn't need to drink, but when I drank, there was no break. There was nothing to stop me, and I just kept going. And I went on like this for about 8, 9, maybe 10 years. At age 27, my younger sister got married. And I was at the wedding, and the reception was at her husband's parents' home. There was alcohol there, and I proceeded to drink, and I mixed everything, so that made it much worse. I got to the point where I passed out. Shortly after that, my sister announced that she was pregnant with her first child. Well, that was a shock to the system. Probably one I needed long before that, but I decided that I wanted to straighten myself out. And my drinking had been pretty habitual for such a time that it was almost accepted. And I knew if I was going to get any kind of help, it was going to have to be on my own, and I didn't know where to go. And little did I realize at the time, and I just recently found out, that about the time I quit is when the time that alcohol rehab centers started to open up. Had I tried to seek help before this, I may have ended up in a place like Northville Mental Hospital, which might have been, had some other adverse effects to me interacting with people who had severe mental disease, depending upon where I had been roomed. Well, I decided to do outpatient, and I started counseling, and I was determined I was going to do this. A few months into my counseling, and things were going pretty well. I was told what needed to be done, and I followed it. And 2 days before Christmas in 1987, Mitch Albom wrote a column about Bob Probert. It's actually on Mitch Albom's website. And Bob detailed his struggle with alcohol. And immediately, and for me, it was a kinship because Bob was my favorite Red Wing. And it inspired me to try harder, which I did. And shortly thereafter, after that, actually, it might have been just before that, I got hired in Little Caesars, which the family also owns the Detroit Red Wings. About a year and a half into my employment there, I helped a woman whose car stalled. She at first didn't want me to stay. I turned around in my truck. I said, I have to stay. This is bullshit. It's a bad area. And I turned around and pulled in the gas station. I said, you may not want to get in my car, but I will stay at this gas station to make sure you're safe. Well, it was a cold November night. Got kind of chilly. She hopped into my car. I happened to be wearing my Bob Probert jersey. She started talking to me about that, and she goes, why are you such a big fan? I said, well, I love the way he plays, but I also love the article that was written about him. And this is 1989. The article was written in 87, but I met her in 89, and I waited till her friend got there, and she gave me her name and her place of work and said, Bob comes in there. Anytime you come in, use my name, and you'll get in cover free. And if he's there, I will introduce you. A week later, I decided to try. For the first time, I said, what the heck? Let's see if he's there. And not a couple minutes after I walked in, and she had given me a Coke to drink, who walked in by Bob Probert and Sheldon Kennedy. Well, for me, that was awesome. I sat down with him for about a half an hour, and I told him some of my plans, my dreams, and he encouraged me, supported me, and challenged me, and told me that he would beat my sobriety. God must have had a hand in that, because every time I had a rough day, the one thing is, I can't lose Bob. And many times, that thought got me through a day. Adjusting to work life without beer or alcohol was very hard, because the majority of people drink. So their thinking, their approach to life is different than someone who doesn't even think about alcohol, which I got myself to that point. And I went through different jobs just because the person I worked for maybe drank a little bit too much, or when going for a promotion, I got passed over because someone else went out with the boys and drank. The work might have been equal, or mine might have been a little better, but because this person buddied up with someone drinking, they got the promotion. Well, years of this have gone on, and about 2 years ago, I started having some wild mood swings. That's the only way I can determine it. Inside, I was the same person, but I was having feelings of depression, possibly hurting myself, and because of the determined way I handle alcoholism, I thought, this has got to be just a blip. I can fight this. Well, I tried to fight it for about 6 months, and some of my behavior may have led to my dismissal from a job that I had. The people employed me, still very kind to me, always willing to put a good word out for me. Well, I found in the year that after I was gone from there, that I was invited to a speaking engagement with Eric Hipple. Eric Hipple spoke about his encounter with depression on his own. His son committed suicide, and he also attempted it. His wife was taking him to a business meeting, and all of a sudden, he gave her an envelope and then opened up the van door. They're doing 70 miles an hour, down 75. He jumped out. And Eric now works for U of M Depression Center. And I had a long talk with him, and some of the things that he described me perfectly. And I talked with him afterwards, and he gave me a few ideas for a few different drugs to try. And the first one I went with was Zoloft. So I went to my doctor, and we tried a level of medication, and it worked. And I decided I I had wanted to go back to school for a long time, and a couple times it just didn't seem right. And uh, after about a year, I felt like I need to make a change, to do something different. And so I went back to Schoolcraft, and I didn't know what to expect. I've been away from school 30 years. My first class was an English 101 class where we wrote 4 papers, but we did some other things as a group, in smaller groups in the class. And I went through that, and teacher loved the work that I did, and when I finished the class I got a B+. That shocked me. It really shocked me. I think with depression, the alcoholism, the grief, I had lowered my self-esteem to the point where it was like, I can do that. Well, when I finished the first class, I went back to my counselor and we set up a schedule for to fix my previous record at Schoolcraft. And second class, we arranged for me to take with sociology. I had no idea what it was going to be. It sounded like it was going to be tough. Well, getting into it, the phrases and whatnot, I couldn't put the phrase to the behavior or the process or the theory, but I understood it really well. And so I just had to figure out one thing to the next and put it all together, and I ended up getting an A in that class. So the reason why I'm making this video is to let people know that no matter what challenge you face, whether it be addiction, whether it be grief, whether it be depression, you can overcome these things. There's nothing in this world you can't overcome with positive thought and belief in yourself. And I've developed that over the years. I don't know how or why, but I was born with a stubborn streak, and it stayed with me all my life. I learned to change my behavior, to use my stubbornness to create a path where I could go, where I could change what I am. I've been fortunate. I've used several different people as inspirations. Bob Probert, A.R. Keppel, the character that Sylvester Stallone played in Rocky, Jim Valvano. I met him, and in 10 years after I met him, he gave his famous SB speech. Don't ever give up. Don't give up. And that was something that it was something that I want to do something. Leave a mark for someone else, where someone else can overcome something that they never thought they could. It's important. It's important that we help people change for the better. Another one I met was Mike Utley, a guy who had everything going for him, all pro, caliber offensive lineman. And on a freak play, which was nobody's fault, he broke a vertebrae in his neck and he's paralyzed from the neck down. And he chose to never give up. Rocky never chose to give up. Another one is Kirk Gibson, who constantly battled. You've got to battle to get through. You can't quit. So this is my video, and it's 20 minutes long, and I probably rattled on a little bit longer than what I should have. But if somebody can get something out of this and find a way to find their peace, to find their way, to find happiness, to find a dream, then it's well worth it. Anyone that watches this or listens to this, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do so. It's important. We have to look out for each other.